It's been really, just really exciting to just watch him grow every single day within what we're kind of asking him to do, but while also, we're learning a lot about, the things he naturally can just do from a physical standpoint, throwing the football, things that he sees within our offense that maybe open up some new avenues for us from schematic standpoint and personnel standpoint. So it's just, really, really early, but getting these full speed reps against a really good defense every day and watching him and how he processes and goes about running our offense. And that's what's been the best part, is his willingness to just completely submerge himself in this system and really take it over and have so much ownership of it so early has been really fun to watch.
What are you going to see on the offense tomorrow?
Competitive reps against some different looks. I mean, we get a lot of great work against our defense, but they're pretty unique in how they do things from a standpoint of, the philosophical way they play certain routes and, the pressures that we see. We saw a lot of the same ones in the spring. We saw we've seen them early on in camp, and although we've gotten great work against them because their personnel is so good on that side and the scheme is so good, it'll be great to go against somebody else full speed, see where we're at from blocking some different bodies and running routes on new DBs and seeing different coverages at the quarterback position. So it's a little bit of everything, kind of like what you'd want to see out of a preseason game, but just hopefully with that pro level of taking care of one another and making sure that we're coming out of there clean from an injury standpoint.
How do you see John Walker being out? Is that plans for tomorrow and presumably the first preseason?
Yeah, John, obviously caught us a little bit off guard with that news, but obviously we want to get him all fixed up and ready to roll as soon as possible. But it'll give Bryce and Duck a great opportunity, just like they had today. Short notice. Hey, you guys are going with the twos. Be ready to roll, because you guys know how it is. We don't slow down really. So if that position, which obviously Zach and myself getting those guys ready to go, if that position is where we want, we feel like offensively, the other 10 guys in the huddle can do their jobs and we can roll. But it starts with the quarterback position, making sure that procedurally we're good. Calling the play in the huddle right. Being great with their cadence, sending motions at the right time, snap points. There's little things before the ball ever hits their hands that we need to make sure they do right and do well, so that everybody else can get the work that they need to get. And then once the ball hits their hands and they're running the play, the game makes sense to both those guys, and we get to really evaluate, how they see it, how they'll throw it, and steal some extra reps outside of the preseason games to get some evaluations in.
So all three quarterbacks would go tomorrow?
Absolutely. We're going to find, depending on who gets more of those twos, I think it's more about, letting guys get in a rhythm. We'll really take a look at how the practice is set up and make sure guys it's not, one in, one out, two in, two out type of thing. But we know where they're going to get so much work over the next 3-4 weeks with the games and some of the practice stuff that we have scheduled, that we're not counting reps at this point. We're just making sure that those guys know that take advantage of every op you get at this point, because you never know how many more could be coming.
Kevin, when you guys have I want to go back to last week, when you guys have a red period that seemed to this point to be the most competitive ones-on-ones moment that's happened in camp to this point, what do you see and then what do you feel in terms of guys kind of going punch for punch and adjusting kind of in the moment?
Yeah, I think that's one of those times where you see early on in the installs, we don't have 1,000 plays. We're not scripting plays or designing plays, if you will, to try to get people wide open. And a lot of times what happens is you got to exhaust progressions, or you got to try to fit a ball into a tight window. And as we saw against our defense, it can go the other way in a hurry. That razor thin margin of error that you have playing our defense, but at the same time, come right back the next play, exhaust the progression. We work a lot. We talk a lot about both the on-schedule and off-schedule type of plays, both from a quarterback decision-making standpoint, but also all 11 working to finish every play. And Cooper's touchdown right after the interception was a great example of that. You could scheme it up all you want, but red zone defense, sometimes they're going to drop 8. I give Raheem a hard time. Sometimes it feels like he's dropping 12 or 13, especially with Jalen counting for a couple with how long he is. So from a standpoint of that, it's great work for us. We'll obviously continue to grow from a schematic standpoint as we move through the month, but also defensively they'll do more, and we'll have to see more, and then we'll get more pressures and have to talk about some of the audibles and all that stuff. I love the red zone. I love those periods in training camp because there's something about, you know, that idea of scoring points down there. The defense doesn't like it, and that's our ultimate goal, you know, finishing those drives with touchdowns.
There was a particular snap as well. I wasn't sure if it was the center or the quarterback. There was a little bit of a bobble, but the play stayed alive,
Yep.
and he kept Van coming with him
Yep.
to the far side. Do you guys measure things like performance after a critical error, and does that in turn help eliminate sort of negative or wasted plays down the line?
Absolutely. I mean, the number one thing that with a team where, you know, where we want to go as a team and the goals that we have, the number one thing is if there's ever a negative play, who can be the person, or the group more importantly, to set the tone, to set things right and start that momentum back in a positive direction. And you know, when you have a quarterback that can kind of make a mistake, or I remember the player talking about, you know, a high snap there that Matthew kind of controls, but in the rhythm and timing of the red zone, things kind of get thrown off. Who can, you know, first and foremost, never make a bad play worse, but then on top of that, go turn it into a good football play and a scoring op. You know, that's just, you know, kind of gravy at that point. But those things are going to happen early in camp. The key is eliminating some of those, you know, non-schematical things that, you know, just from a standpoint of focus and concentration of all 11 that we have, that we're stressing on our guys. How quickly can we go out there and eliminate those mistakes, never make the same mistake twice, and then obviously see how many plays in a row we can stack where all 11 are doing their jobs. And normally when that happens, they can see it themselves that the success of what we're trying to do shows.
When you're doing like a setup series of calls, like on that, it seemed like he looked twice toward Cooper in that end zone, but then looked and then threw the no look over the top instead.
Yeah.
Does it help when you can eliminate a negative play in terms of your play calling series and what you're trying to set up?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. Even in the red zone, we talk a lot about applying pressure to the defense. We want to be in an attacking mindset with a smart you know, mentality as coaches, but also as players. We want our players attacking the defense, tempo, snap counts, motions, formations, personnels. I mean, every schematical advantage we can get pre-snap to allow, you know, we think we got some pretty good players to allow those guys to then go win their one-on-one matchups is really, you know, what we're hunting all over the field. You know, we could be 99 yards away, backed up on our own end zone, and we'll try to find ways to establish whatever advantage we can. Defenses are really good in this league. We feel great about our group. It's just a matter of how many times can we apply pressure to the defense in our own way that gives us an advantage.
How did Hodges look today? And can you give us kind of a bigger picture, scouting report on how he's looked for camp?
Yeah, you know what? For right now, you know, it's still, things are still new to him, and from a procedure standpoint, calling plays, you know, motion snap points, making sure he knows that if we have a play on a can, he knows what he's canning the play for. But did I call the play right? You know, first and second play in the huddle, whatever it may be. I keep telling Duck that, you know, I can tell the game makes sense to him when the ball hits his hands. It's a matter of how many times in a row can I procedurally operate the offense so that I put the other 10 guys in a position to have their success doing their jobs. And more oftentimes than not, when he does that, he's talented. He's a pretty talented thrower of the football. He's got some athleticism, and he's got some experience, you know, getting, you know, put in some tough spots where he led his team to some really, really good football in Pittsburgh. So you hope you can get him to a point where he can rely on that. But he's got to, first and foremost, know exactly what he's doing, what his job is, and how he can help everybody else out in the huddle by doing that.
What do you need to find out about the running backs, whether it's starting tomorrow or as you go on?
Yeah, I think, you know, with I'm a huge Darrell Henderson fan, and if everybody, you know, a lot of times the recency bias of, you know, how special Cam was down the stretch for us. But Darrell was, the first half of the season, I thought he was, you know, being my first year last year, really not having a lot of exposure to Darrell. I loved him coming out of the draft when I was at my former team, but getting to watch him and once he gets in the flow and the rhythm of what we were trying to do last year, I mean, he had some huge plays, huge runs, and some consistent explosives for us. I love the way he catches the ball. I love the way his ownership of the position. Thomas has done an unbelievable job with him, really getting him to grow towards being a three-down back. And then Jake and X are having really good camps. I think both just from a standpoint of, being put in some situations and maybe more touches than what they maybe expected. But that was going to be a conversation whether they were competing for whatever spot they're competing for. That was going to be a conversation because they're both two talented guys, and it's been fun to watch those guys kind of grow every single day. And then obviously with Ray and Otis, those guys are doing being ready to go, and we'll see more of those guys as we get to training camp and the competitive ops. And I think that gives them a chance to learn throughout the first couple weeks, and then you guys got to be ready to go, maybe without the same amount of reps as the other guys.
Couple more guys.
Tight end after tight end. What do you think?
Yeah, Johnny's been so consistent. He's really always been like that. You think back to Chicago last year, when he kind of had to take a little bit more of a lead dog role. Johnny's going to be, incredibly effective. He's so strong at the point of attack as a blocker. He runs well, vertically as a route runner. He's not afraid to, stand in there against edge pass rushers and pass protection. What he does is he gives a lot of versatility behind Tyler that really we can take advantage of. And then obviously, after that, there's just a ton of young guys, talented guys that are all waiting to just make their mark. Obviously, it's good to have Jacob back healthy and out there getting some reps. And then, Kendall and Bryson and Markway are all having their impact in their own way. But just like the running back position, I think we'll all be watching to see those guys make a lot of plays as we start to get competitive reps against other opponents, and it's going to be fun to watch. Getting guys some real solid opportunities, in those competitive environments with the pads on when there's finish to the ground. Not only everybody always wants to talk about when tackling starts. I think when blocking, when you're allowed to finish people to the ground, you're allowed to finish blocks. Within the confines of the rules, I think you can learn a lot about folks once those opportunities come.
That's about Chuck. I might as well ask about Perkins. He's got a little more familiarity being on practice squad last year.
For sure.
Where's he grown?
Yeah, I think from a mental standpoint, even today I felt a lot of confidence in the way he stepped in the huddle calling plays. Now it's for Bryce, it's about, finding that balance between, executing the offense and trying to read through progressions, but never limiting his ability to impact the game from an athletic standpoint. And we can help him move the pocket, keepers, design things, but at the same time, he's really grown as a passer since he first got here. Fundamentally, the things we've asked him to do, now it's just a matter of can he apply that in rhythm with a live pass rush, trying to keep our offense rolling and clicking at all cylinders while also using his unique ability to impact the game athletically. There's a fine balance there that we're helping to try to help him find.
You mentioned, when you're working through a play, it's a matter of working through the progression, or
Yep.
Matthew trying to fire it in through a tight window. At what point, or how do you evaluate when a play or a concept just doesn't work? Even for a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's proven he can make any throw, that you just kind of move on from that. How do you evaluate?
Yeah, first and foremost, I don't want to speak for Sean, but we always look in the mirror first and say, hey, what were we really trying to do there? What were we really asking him to do? And then, if there's something fundamentally, took too many steps in his drop or not enough, or we had a breakdown somewhere else, then you filter through that lens first, but always the accountability of was that really a good idea? Was that really the right time? Was that really the right formation, the right matchup within a play? And then you give him another op at it, and with him, as many opportunities we can have him out here seeing a defense with his group out there of whoever's in the huddle with him, it's a positive because we're all taking a step forward, growing together, and trying to build something special.
With Cam out, is there any part of you that doesn't want to make Darryl a 3-down back this year and err on the side of a little bit more conservative?
Yeah, I think you just kind of let things play out, and as always with us, whether it's you're talking about the wideouts, the tight ends that we were talking about earlier, and the backs are no different. We'll figure out that fine balance between game plan and who's doing what and how much they're doing versus the effectiveness of the whole group when we're really using our full complement of players on the offensive side, because we feel really good about our depth. The competition will play out in a lot of those positions to continue to solidify that depth, but it's way too early in my mind to start having those conversations and kind of seeing how things play out. Tomorrow's an opportunity to see a little bit of that, and then we'll just keep on evaluating and moving forward. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.